Hello and welcome. I am making this video. I have to be bold and courageous over this to help with anyone that is considered not voting and why it's so important to vote and why we need believers to vote. And I know there's a lot out there that don't think they can vote. So why are some of the reasons why I'm voting? Well, I have 3 grandsons that I am voting for because I want them to keep their freedoms. I want them to have a safe country to live in. I want them to have someone that loves this country and is standing up for it. And I'm voting for the future grandchildren that are yet to come and great-grandchildren. And so these are some of the reasons why I'm voting, and I think it's really important to have this discussion because so many people don't think they can vote. And I want to just talk about that for a few minutes. And so one of the things that I think is super important is our border. We keep our houses safe with a border, protection. We keep banks safe and stores safe, and that because we have locks and things. And so there is a reason we're not trying to keep people that need help out, but there's a reason why we vet people and we just don't let anyone into our house. And it's very important. Those reasons are real and they're legitimate reasons. Another reason is that I believe California and Washington State already have a bill on the works about gender and identity issues, and they're taking parents' rights away. In fact, I think California's might have passed, but I could be wrong. But they're literally, if you don't help your kid, they'll take them away or maybe arrest you. I'm the one that had the kid. I want to be the one that raised the child. It's my responsibility to raise them. And I find a lot of confusion in this area when I was in the grocery store yesterday. Just hear me out for a minute. And there's an area where they're making salads and they're chopping up foods. And there was a sign. I took a picture of the sign. And it says, nobody under the age of 18 can work past this point because they're chopping up vegetables and making hot soup. Yet we're giving rights to 10-year-olds about identity issues and changing their gender. We need to vote over that. That's important to have a voice in that area and not have your rights taken away. And so those are some of the reasons why I'm voting. And I think it's very important. What I want to talk about is I traveled after my senior year of school, like a couple days later, I went to Europe and I went through concentration camp. I worked over there for a little bit, did some touring, and was at a concentration camp. And this is if you can see, this is a monument there that I was at. And I think it was written in 4 or 5 languages. And it basically says, any generation that does not remember what happened here, it will happen to you. And that's a really bold statement. I was 19 years old at that monument in Germany. And it was, I remember it really hitting my heart very profoundly. It just struck me that somehow I could end up seeing that happen. And it just didn't seem actually real, like that could really happen. I didn't see a possibility of it. But I think that's probably very true for the German church and for the German country. Hitler was coming into power, and I don't know the numbers really well, but there was a number of churches that were for going with Hitler and his rhetoric. There were a number of churches that went against it and stood up, and I don't think there was a lot. I think, but I could be wrong, there was maybe 1,200, 1,300, but I could be wrong about that. And then from what I understand And if I'm wrong, I will apologize, but I believe there was around 3,000 churches that chose to remain silent. There's a concentration camp that I walked through because the church remained silent. And this is why I'm asking you to vote. This is how important it is. We can't remain silent. And a lot of people will say, well, the church shouldn't be political. It was through the whole Bible. Esther came before her husband, who was the king. And if he had not given her the scepter, she would have been executed. But she went before him for the fight for her people. She went before him to invite him to a banquet. It was political. The apostles the disciples were in prison because they were political. They stood up. Paul, Peter, there was a lot that went on in those areas that were political. And we need to stand up and we need to make our voices known before we have to end up going to an area we don't want to go to. I don't want to have to stand up and go to prison, but I'm willing. I don't want to have to. I want to make my voice known now. It's so simple to cast a vote. It's so simple to make your voice heard now before there's less freedom. And that's what I'm asking you to vote for. Is the abortion issue for Trump perfect? No, but it's way better than her policies for abortion. That's life alone. That's a big one right there. For the protection of our children, there's so much more. There's so much at stake. I think it's shocking that our churches were shut down not that long ago. And they shouldn't have been. People, anything they needed to be in church. But other stores were not. Those are freedom issues. And they're worth voting for. Our children are worth voting for. Life is worth voting for. Transgender issues are worth voting for. And that's what I'm asking you to do. Not to hide and run, but to stand up, be bold, be courageous, and go forth and vote. And I'm voting for Trump, and I'm not going to back down off of that. People might not like it, and I might get feedback for it, and that's okay. God asked me to be bold and courageous. In fact, it was in my devotional this morning, and so I am being bold and courageous, and I'm asking you to stand up and make your voices heard. Thank you for listening. If you want to have a discussion below, that's fine. Please do not be rude. Thanks for stopping by. And as always, I pray blessings over you.